Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into a world of grit leather and frozen air, the Mongol steppe where silence stretches farther than the horizon, and your pillow is probably a saddle. You're not a general or even a scout. Nope. You're just one of tens of thousands of exhausted Mongol horsemen settling down under a pinkening sky after another day of thundering hooves and wind-burned cheeks. Your legs are jelly. Your rear end feels like it's been slapped with iron all day, which it has. And your horse, well, it's staring at you like it might just roll over and nap on top of you. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're here, post your location and local time. Always fun to see where you lovely sleepyheads are tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The wind is still blowing slow but sharp, and it smells like cold grass and something vaguely singed. You dismount with a groan and try not to collapse into the snow-crusted grass. It's dusk now, that sleepy blue hour when everything turns soft and shadowy. Around you, other riders are circling up, talking low and slapping their horses' necks in familiar rhythm. Your beast snorts and shakes off the day, already dreaming of fermented oats, or maybe just less of you on its back. You shuffle through the semi-frozen ground, tugging your long felt boots out of sticky divots each step, leaving behind a squish that sounds faintly like complaint. You're not alone in that. Everyone's sore, everyone's tired, and yet no one talks about it. Mongol culture thrives on silent endurance. You suck it up, crack your neck, and start setting up your makeshift camp. There are no canvas tents tonight, not for you anyway. The jier, those beautiful domed yurts you sometimes see in movies, reserved for the elite or family caravans. Out here, the mobile military relies on pragmatism. You carry your shelter in layers, woolen cloak, leather deal, and horse sweat. Your tent is the sky. Your first job is to stake the perimeter, not with ropes or poles, but with logic and vigilance. Horses are spaced in a half-circle reins, looped over low posts or tied to your gear. Mongols treat horses like siblings, and for good reason if you lose your horse out here. You might as well lie down and become part of the landscape. So you whisper to yours, stroke its nose, and press your forehead briefly to its mane. That's not superstition. That's habit. Maybe even gratitude. You both survived another day. A quiet fire springs up near the center of your cluster, made from dried dung, of course. There's no firewood for miles. The flame is low, flickering gold in the bluish dark, and it makes the armor of nearby riders glow like they're being smelted back into myth. Someone laughs at a joke you didn't hear. Another mutters something in a dialect thick with R's and throat sounds, probably cursing the cold. Above the sky is flipping through its daily transformation. Clouds drift apart like sleepy sheep, revealing a slow parade of stars. Orion appears first, or at least the version you know some Mongol clans call it, the Arrow of Heaven. Historians still argue whether these steppe warriors relied on Persian charts or their own constellation myths. You don't really care. You just stare up and think, that one's pretty. That one looks like a horse. That one might be watching me. A yawn sneaks up and grabs your whole body. You stretch, popping your back in 5 distinct places. Congrats, you've just adjusted your spine, Mongol style. No chiropractor needed. Or maybe very much needed. Someone passes you a skin of Arag fermented mare's milk. You take a sip. It's fizzy, sour, kind of like drinking yogurt soda filtered through a goat's sock. but it warms the throat and settles the stomach. So who's complaining? Not you. Not tonight. And yes, Mongols actually drank this stuff all the time. It was sacred, social, and practical. A horse could be milked meated-ridden, and occasionally, very occasionally, talked to during moments of despair. They're pretty much the Swiss Army knife of Central Asia. You're full of aches and not much else. And the twilight feels endless. No bugs, no buzzing. Just the wind, the low hum of men settling in, and the occasional annoyed bray of a horse, not thrilled with its overnight neighbor. Behind you, someone starts humming a deep, reedy tune that almost vibrates the ground. Mongol throats singing. It's not just music. It's landscape turned to sound. The notes rise and fall, like hills and rivers, like wind over skull-shaped stones. You don't know the words, but you feel them. Somewhere in that sound is the story of how the world was born on a horse's back, and how every warrior is a dot on the map of destiny. And just as your eyes begin to flutter closed, a rock pokes you in the hip and reminds you you're sleeping on the floor tonight. Again. Probably with a beetle for a bedmate. Mongol bedtime involves no mattress, no tent flaps, no Netflix. Just you, the stars, and the low, groaning certainty that your spine will realign itself in a completely new configuration by morning. But still, you've survived the day, and tomorrow's another ride. Your horse is still warm beneath its coarse coat's steam, curling from its nostrils as it munches methodically on a frozen clump of grass. You pat its flank fingers, going momentarily numb from the contrast your own skin, cold the horse radiating life, like a portable furnace. Feeding time isn't ceremonial, but it's definitely sacred. After all, without this grumpy, broad-backed beast, you'd be on foot, and nobody survives on foot around here. You reach into your satchel and pull out a small cloth-wrapped bundle. Inside, dried cakes of grass millet and powdered bone emergency rations for the horses and the humans, if things get grim. You crumble one of the cakes into a shallow leather feed bag and hook it to the horse's bridle. With a wicker of mild enthusiasm, it begins chewing. You offer a soft tist to quiet it down. Sound carries in the dark, and you're not trying to summon wolves with equine ASMR. Feeding a Mongol horse is more personal than feeding a dog. These aren't just animals, they're war partners, transportation dinner bells, and sometimes shields. The Mongol horse is small by modern standards, closer to a pony really, but don't let that fool you. These beasts are tougher than half the men in camp. They can gallop for hours without tiring, find their own food in knee-deep snow, and survive nights that would turn a camel into a popsicle. You stroke its neck while it eats eyes flicking across the camp perimeter. Other warriors are doing the same, tending to their mounts before themselves as always. Some horses are being rubbed down with chunks of animal fat to insulate against the oncoming cold. Others are being wrapped in felt blankets, especially prized ones that belong to officers or those favored by the shaman. There's always that whisper that some horses are born under lucky moons. Historians still argue whether Mongols really believed such star lore or just used it to justify why some steeds never got loaned out. You reach for your water skin lukewarm from being tucked against your chest all day and pour a few mouthfuls into your cupped palm. Your horse laps it up like a dog, its tongue rough and warm. No troughs here, no buckets, just improvisation and mutual trust. Then comes the ritual of offering ereg yes, the same fermented mare's milk you drank earlier. You fill a small wooden bowl and lift it to your horse's mouth. It sniffs, then takes a dainty sip lips, curling in what might be disgust or delight. It's hard to tell with horses. Some Mongols believe this ritual strengthens the bond between rider and mount. Others say it keeps bad spirits from souring the next day's ride. You say nothing and just enjoy the moment. It's quiet, personal, a bit like tucking a child into bed. A very heavy, occasionally flatulent child with hooves. By now the stars are out in full force. The sky above you feels less like a ceiling, and more like a massive dome, stitched together with pinpricks of light. The Milky Way slices across it, like a trail. Some say it's the path taken by Genghis Khan's spirit. Others call it the celestial horse track. A few say it's just a big smear of sky butter. There are stories for everything here. Your horse shudders finishing its meal. It nudges you, once then lowers its head, and begins grinding its molars rhythmically step lullaby equine edition. You know better than to tie it too tight, but you also know to keep it close. Mongols are paranoid about horse theft, and rightly so. Horses meant power. Power meant survival, which meant, of course, horses were about as safe at night as unattended gold. You loop the reins around a heavy saddlebag, and then run a tether line through your own belt. If that horse bolts in the night, you'll wake up with an unplanned stomach slide across the tundra. It's happened before. One poor soul got dragged over half a mile before he managed to chew through the reins with his teeth. Afterward, he had the nickname Leather Mouth. True story. Or at least, a story repeated enough to feel true. That's how oral history works out here. Back at the central fire, a few warriors are still tending to their horses. One is whispering into its ear, eyes closed, like he's confessing something. Maybe he is. Horses don't gossip. That alone makes them better companions than half the people here. You give your horse one last pat and check the hooves. One of the front shoes is chipped, but it'll hold for another few days, assuming you don't go charging over frozen riverbeds again. You press your forehead to its shoulder, just briefly before stepping away. Your breath fogs before you. You watch it drift upward, vanishing into the night, like smoke without a fire. Around you, the camp settles deeper into stillness. The wind picks up a little. Somewhere far off, an owl hoots a sound rare enough on the steppe that a few men glance up just in case it's something else. Mongol folklore says owls are messengers from the dead, or witches, or both. Take your pick, and still your horse chews steady and grounded as if none of this matters. You smile at it. Sleep tight, buddy. Don't kick me if I roll into your leg. It snorts. You're not sure if that was a yes or a threat. The fire sputters softly as you make your way back toward it, cradling your hands for warmth and doing that little Mongol warrior shuffle, half a dance, half an attempt to keep your toes from freezing off. You approach the camp's glowing heart, where a few riders are gathered in loose circles. There's no woodpile, no crackling logs, just smoldering brown bricks, dried dung stacked like ancient cookies, and burning slow with an earthy, nose-wrinkling stink. You crouch beside the flames, careful not to plant your backside in anything squishy. The heat is subtle, but real, rising in lazy waves that nuzzle your face and sting your eyes just a bit. That's the thing about steppe fires, they don't roar. They whisper. They survive. You pull out a lump of dried meat from your satchel, a piece of jerky that's more tendon than treat. You chew like you're working on leather, which honestly wouldn't taste that different. You warm it in your hands first, not because it improves the flavor, but because it hurts less than biting something that could double as a horseshoe. The fire's glow paints your companions in copper tones. One man is stirring a pot with a carved stick face set like stone. The contents smell faintly of onions, which is odd, because you haven't seen a vegetable in 3 weeks. Could be wild garlic. Could be not. Mongol stew is famously flexible boiled meat marrow, a few scraps of old noodle, maybe a lucky turnip if someone raided a village recently. Another writer offers you a flat round of baked dough, sun-dried and rock-hard. You accept it with a nod and tap it against your knee to soften it. It doesn't help. You gnaw anyway. The taste is somewhere between burnt and forgettable, but it fills the stomach. And out here, that's worth more than seasoning. You glance back at the fire. It sputters again, kicking up a few lazy sparks. It smells. Well, let's be honest, it smells like someone lit a barn on fire and added a splash of goat. But you don't complain. Dung fuel is life out here. Without it, there's no warmth, no cooked food, no hot tea. Yes, tea. A tin cup gets passed your way, and you accept it with both hands, like it's sacred. Inside milk tea, thickened with fat and seasoned with salt. Mongol warriors didn't sip delicate brews, they drank calories. Every drop counts. You slurp it down, savoring the odd, oily warmth as it spreads through your throat and into your bones. Across the fire, an older warrior, his mustache frosted from breath, clears his throat. Ever seen a dung fire explode, he asks. You blink. No, he grins. Then you haven't lived right. That's how Mongol humor works. It's dry, bleak, and usually involves livestock. Historians still argue whether dung-burning fires contributed to the unique cooking methods of the Mongols, or if they were just an inevitable response to the treeless landscape. Either way, you don't exactly crave the flavor profile of poached meat in cow chip fumes. But your stomach disagrees. You finish the stew anyway. A new log well patty gets added to the flames, and it sizzles like bacon. It's not bacon. You know it. Everyone knows it. But for one glorious moment, the smell teases your memory of something fried and good. Stop drooling, someone mumbles. You wipe your chin. Fair enough. The fire isn't just for warmth or cooking. It's also a security beacon. Wolves, brigands, and worse things slink around these plains after dark. Something about the steppe lends itself to eerie stillness, like the world is waiting for something bad to happen. Mongols believe in spirits, and most of them don't want to meet one tonight. A warrior tosses a handful of powdered herbs into the fire. Blue smoke curls up, smelling of dried mint, and something sharper juniper maybe. You catch a breath of it and feel a tingle in your teeth. Keeps the spirits confused, he explains. You nod slowly. Whether it works or not isn't really the point. Ritual is comfort, and anything that smells better than the fire is welcome. You look into the flames again. The dung crackles faintly, and the orange tongues dance in little bursts. Mongol warriors watch fire like people watch TV. It's hypnotic, mesmerizing. You feel your mind begin to slow thoughts growing thick and syrupy. Someone belches loudly nearby. The moment is ruined, but also kind of perfect. You wrap your deal tighter around your shoulders and lean forward, letting the heat kiss your face. For a second, you can almost imagine you're back in a GR, surrounded by family sipping tea, without the weight of armor or the cold breath of empire. But you're not. You're a cog in the most efficient war machine the world's ever seen, a mobile missile on horseback. And tonight, you're powered by horse milk chewy meat and flaming manure. The fire pops and you flinch. A coal jumps towards you, then dies with a hiss in the frost. You sigh. Thanks, fire. Love you too. It flickers in reply. You groan as you rise from your fire-warmed crouch legs, stiff from sitting too long and riding even longer. It's time for the moment every Mongol warrior dreads, but no one admits it. The armor comes off, slowly, carefully, and with all the grace of a beetle shedding a walnut shell. You start with the outermost layer your heavy leather deal. The stiff fabric creaks as you tug at the toggles, your fingers fumbling in the chill. It's been brushed with animal fat and hardened in spots where sweat has seeped in and sun has baked it for days. The smell is something between campfire smoke and well-used saddle. You peel it back, like cracking open a personal oven, one that's been stewing in horse and body for 16 hours. Beneath that layers wool, hide, more leather, and finally, your undergarment, a thin tunic clinging to your back, like a second very damp skin. You peel it off, and the cold hits you like a slap from an ice ghost. You actually hiss. There's no shame in it. Now for the armor. Lamellar plates, hundreds of small lacquered bits of iron or hardened leather, are laced together with rawhide cords and wrapped around your torso like a puzzle built to punish. You begin untying the knots, each one tighter than the last. Mongol armor isn't decorative. It's practical. Lightweight, flexible, made for archery on the move. It won't stop a crossbow bolt, but it'll turn aside most swords. And more importantly, it won't drown you if you fall into a river. You tug and wriggle, bending this way and that, until the armor finally slips free. It hits the ground with a muffled thunk, and your entire spine cracks like a bowl of dry rice cereal. There it is, relief, glorious relief. You rotate your shoulders, and hear pops all the way down your back. You tilt your head, crack. The other way, crack. Knees, hips, elbows, they all join in the chorus. Mongol chiropractic courtesy of iron wind and sheer attrition. You glance around. Other warriors are going through the same ungainly ritual. A few are helping each other, particularly younger ones, still learning the fine art of not dislocating a shoulder while undressing. One man unlaces his boot with his teeth. Another strips down to the waist and beats dust off his underclothes with a rock. It's communal misery with a soundtrack of groans. And let's not forget the smell. Oh no. The layers may have protected you from arrows, but they also turned you into a walking crock-pot. You stink. Not just regular stink, but 10-day ride 2 battles and a sheep wrestling contest stink. Some of it is you. Some of it is the armor. Historians still argue whether Mongols had any consistent bathing routines, or if they relied solely on smoke-cleansing air baths and the occasional accidental river dunk. You don't know. All you know is that you feel like a boiled goat, and not in a delicious way. You stretch again, lifting your arms high, then regret it instantly. Cold air slices into your armpits like tiny knives. You wince and slap your arms back down. Okay, maybe no full yoga routine tonight. Someone beside you burps loudly and tosses his chest plate onto the ground, like he's exercising it. It bounces once and lands upside down, the interior dark with grime and use. He grins at you. Still better than sleeping in chainmail, he mutters. You nod. Chainmail is a luxury some Mongols carry, usually looted from knights or borrowed from dead mercenaries. But out here, lamellar is king. It's lighter, quieter, easier to fix with bits of string and patience. And honestly, it doubles as a decent pillow in a pinch. Your arms are sore. Your thighs feel like they've been repeatedly slapped by planks. That's the thing no one tells you about cavalry life. You don't fight the horse. You become the horse. But your body, it still thinks it's human. And it hates you for it. You massage your thighs, groaning softly. They feel like overcooked mutton. Your knees creak every time you shift position. You think you pulled something in your back, but honestly, that could have been 3 weeks ago. You hear a thump nearby, someone lying flat on the ground with a long exhale of exhaustion. No mat, no blanket, just ground. Cold hard, and somehow both lumpy and flat. Mongols didn't believe in excess padding. If the earth was good enough for Genghis, it's good enough for you. You lay your armor out in a neat line beside your gear boots. Saddle water, skin dagger. There's a method to the madness. In the dark, muscle memory is everything. If someone shouts at midnight, you need to be fully dressed and armed in less than a minute. No time to fumble. Someone near the fire coughs. Another warrior sneezes so hard it scares his horse. Laughter ripples through camp, soft, tired, but real. You smile. The worst days end the same way, stripped to the skin, seated in a circle, your bones aching. But your comrades close. And that's the secret. Mongols didn't conquer half the known world through magic or horses alone. They did it by surviving night after night, one cold undressing at a time. You roll your shoulders once more. The armor's off. The bones have cracked. Your body is half frozen and fully broken in. And now, at last, you can begin the long, luxurious process of not dying in your sleep. You shuffle a little farther from the fire, now that your armor's off, and your belly's not entirely empty. Your skin prickles in the open air, but you tell yourself it's refreshing. Character building, probably great for the pores if you're into that sort of thing. Now it's time for what might generously be called Mongol hygiene. You fish a small, hardened pouch from your saddlebag and open it to reveal your cleaning kit, a scrap of felt, a hunk of sheep fat soap, and a bone comb that's seen better centuries. No perfumed waters, no warm wash basins, just practical tools passed down from generations of men who smelled just as bad as you do now. You begin by dabbing your face with the felt. It's rough and smells faintly of animal grease. You rub in small circles, trying to dislodge the layer of grime and wind-blown dust that has caked on like a second skin. There's a satisfying crunch as flakes of dried sweat and road grit come loose. Is it glamorous? Not remotely. Is it effective? Well, sort of. Next, the soap. You spit into your hand and rub the sheep fat block until it forms a thin, creamy smear. It's slippery, oily, and oddly satisfying. You spread it across your cheeks, chin and nose scrubbing until your skin tingles. Mongols swore by this stuff. It was antiseptic moisturizing and doubled as fire starter in a pinch. Triple threat. You rinse with snow, scooping a handful, smashing it against your face, and gasping as your whole skull contracts in protest. Nothing like an icy slap of frozen water to remind you that you're still alive. Kind of makes you miss that fermented milk from earlier. While you pat your face dry with a corner of your cloak, a fellow warrior nearby is working through his own ritual. He's inspecting his armpits, like they've committed a war crime. Then, in full view of everyone, he grabs a clump of sagebrush, spits on it, and gives each underarm a vigorous scrub. The scent isn't pleasant, but it's an upgrade from horseman musk. Mongol hygiene wasn't about daintiness, it was about practicality. Steppe warriors didn't bathe daily, or even weekly in some cases. Water was too precious, and besides, the wind did half the work. Historians still argue whether Mongols bathed seasonally or more frequently depending on proximity to rivers or spiritual practices. Some records say they steamed themselves in felt tents with herbal smoke. Others say they just rubbed themselves with dirt and called it a day. You finish cleaning with a few long strokes of your comb through your tangled hair. The comb teeth pull and tug, dragging out tiny knots, and hopefully any lice thinking about setting up shop. Mongol combs weren't just for style. They were a matter of public health. A clean scalp meant fewer distractions in battle, and fewer infestations to share with your yurtmates. You pause, staring down at a tiny knot of hair you've pulled loose. It's dark, curled, and probably older than some of the horses in camp. You flick it into the fire, watching it spark briefly and vanish. That's one problem dealt with. You glance down at your fingernails, black crescents of dirt, staring back at you like smug little crescent moons. You scrape them clean, with the edge of your knife one by one, the blade flashing dully in the firelight. Nobody's watching. Everybody's doing the same. Some men are changing their underclothes if they're lucky enough to have spares. One guy is holding his tunic at arm's length, nose wrinkled in horror. Another's giving his boots a sniff test, then regretting it instantly. You catch his eye. You both nod in mutual understanding. We are all disgusting, and that is okay. A warrior near the edge of camp is trimming his beard with a sharp flake of obsidian. His face is serene, his hands practiced. The blade flashes like a fish scale in the moonlight. Mongols prized grooming despite the myths. To them, a clean, tidy warrior was a respectful one. Appearances mattered especially when meeting chiefs' shamans or potential in-laws. Of course, there were exceptions. You recall the story of one legendary fighter who refused to bathe for 3 years because he believed his body stench scared off evil spirits. Apparently, it also scared off marriage proposals. Go figure. You finish your own routine by smearing a bit of sheep tallow onto your hands and face protection against windburn and cold. It glistens on your skin like medieval moisturizer. If Genghis Khan had a skincare line, this would be the flagship product, now with extra lanolin and the faint scent of survival. Your joints feel looser now, your skin a bit cleaner, and your spirits marginally lifted. There's something deeply satisfying about scraping the day off your body, even if you're still 40% dust and 10% horse. You stretch again and sigh, your breath curling upward like smoke. Around you, the nightly rituals unfold in quiet rhythm. Some men are done. Others are just beginning, and in the background always is the wind whistling low and patient like it's waiting for the last man to lie down, so it can tuck everyone in with frost and silence. You sniff your fingers and nod. Not bad, not great, but not bad. And out here, that's about as fresh as it gets. The wind hushes low across the grasslands as the night matures, pressing cold fingers into every seam of your cloak. But the camp doesn't sleep just yet. Not entirely. After the cleaning, the tending the meal, there's still one thing left to do before darkness pulls its full weight across the steppe noise. Not wild shouting or laughter, mind you. Mongol evening noise is intimate, human, a hum beneath the stars. You wander back toward the fire where the others have gathered, and the first thing you notice is the quiet plucking of strings. A 2-stringed Morin Kur horsehead fiddle rests in the lap of a warrior with wind-chapped cheeks and eyes that haven't blinked since the soup. The sound that comes from it is soft, low, and haunting like a dream trying to remember itself. The bow draws across the strings, with a hiss and hum, and suddenly the steppe has a voice. It's not quite music in the Western sense, more like landscape turned audible. You find a spot by the fire and settle in, knees hugged to your chest. The others nod to you, barely acknowledging your presence, as if you've always been there. That's the way with this life. You don't make entrances, you fade into the pattern. As the fiddler plays, another man begins to hum. Deep layered notes vibrate through the stillness throat, singing kume. The harmony feels like it's coming from inside the earth itself. It buzzes through your boots, climbs your spine, and settles behind your eyes. Mongol warriors weren't just warriors. They were keepers of story and sound. This nightly ritual music murmurs, and the occasional well-timed grunt, is as much about memory as it is melody. Songs about battles, yes, but also about lost horses, old loves, sacred mountains. And that one time someone set their deal on fire during a snowstorm. A particularly dramatic tune swells, and the man beside you leans in. This one's about the time Temujin's horse got stolen by his cousin. He whispers, lips barely moving. He tracked him for 3 days, then forgave him, only punched him twice. You nod solemnly. Mongol justice. Gossip drifts through the circle like smoke. Quiet snippets, clipped phrases, the occasional snort. Someone mentions a rumor that the Golden Horde might reach as far west as the sea. Someone else scoffs, only if the sea surrenders first. A few jokes roll out like logs on a frozen stream, clumsy but cheerful. You hear about Borchu's new saddle. What about it? Stiff is his conversation. You chuckle, not because it's clever, but because it's warm. Out here, laughter is a fire of its own. Nearby, a young rider strums a tovshur, a sort of lute, with the brightness of a banjo and the twang of dry rope. His fingers move quick and clumsy, but nobody minds. He's learning. And it's better than listening to your stomach argue with your ribs. Historians still argue whether Mongol music was structured or improvisational, whether the melodies passed down were codified or simply passed from throat to throat, like flint sparks. You don't care. All you know is that this night has a rhythm. It settles the nerves, fills the space where fear might creep in, reminds you that you're not just a body in a cloak, you're part of something. Someone begins to tell a story, low voice, half in song, half in chant. It's about a wolf with silver eyes, and a rider who followed it through a blizzard to find a lost herd. Whether it's a myth or memory isn't important. Mongols don't always separate the two. The tale rolls on. You listen, head nodding with the rhythm, and your thoughts begin to stretch like tired limbs. You drift a little, imagining the wolf, the snow, the endless hoofbeats. You don't even notice that the fire's burned low, its glow soft and steady now. Another voice rises, this one older raspier. He begins reciting a lineage, not his own, but Genghis's. One name, then another, back through the generations. You've heard it before, but you always listen. It's like a lullaby carved from bloodlines. The fiddler finishes a final note and rests his chin on the instrument's scroll. Someone mutters, "He needs to tune that thing before it starts summoning spirits." Another voice replies, "Or summon dinner." I'm still hungry. Laughter again. Quieter this time. Throatier. You join in without meaning to. A pause settles over the circle like a held breath. For a moment, no one speaks. The stars blink lazily above. A horse snorts in its sleep. The wind nudges your collar, and somewhere far off a dog barks a sharp, distant punctuation mark in the language of the steppe. You glance around and realize half the men are already curled into sleep cloaks, drawn over faces, boots still on. It's a mess of limbs and gear, like a pile of laundry waiting for a war. You pull your deal tighter and lean your head back, letting your mind coast on the lingering hum of horsehair strings and remembered tales. Out here, there's no bedtime, just slowing down. The fire is now just a whisper, a bed of orange embers flickering like sleepy eyes. Around it, the warriors shift and grunt in their cloaks, settling deeper into the earth. But over at the edge of camp, where the grass is untouched and the dark presses in tighter, something stirs. You look toward the movement and see the shaman. She's not old, not exactly, but time clings to her in strange ways, like smoke in fabric. Her face is weathered-lined not by age, but by the weight of looking both forward and back. She kneels beside a mound of smoking herbs, her shadow twisting like a serpent in the fire's last glow. Shamans on the steppe are neither feared nor worshipped. They're woven into daily life like the wind, or a stubborn horse always there, always watching. Mongols believe shamans speak for the ancestors, not in words necessarily, but in gestures and omens in the way a flame flinches when the right question is asked. Tonight, she's muttering softly, voice barely audible beneath the wind. The smoke around her curls upward like it's listening. You catch a few words: blue sky, mother, river, bone, moon. Nothing particularly threatening, but still, you feel the hair on your arms lift like a cold thought, brushed against your spine. She holds a bundle of juniper and horsehair, lighting it from a coal, cradled in a horn cup. The flames lick greedily, then settle into a long, steady burn. With slow, practiced motions, she waves the smoke in circles, drawing patterns that don't belong to any writing you know. Some warriors believe this wards off evil spirits. Others say it keeps the night from growing teeth. Historians still argue whether Mongol shamans held formal roles within the military, or simply wandered as spiritual freelancers consulted when things felt off. You, like most, aren't too fussed with titles. All you know is that when the shaman starts chanting, you listen. She wears a belt of bones, small vertebrae strung together like teeth on a necklace. A few feathers, some beads, a pendant carved from stone that looks like it remembers a different world. Her cloak is patched with fur from many animals. Foxwolf, something else you can't quite name. It moves with her, as if the furs themselves are whispering. You glance at the other warriors. Most keep their eyes low. One man is watching from beneath his blanket, pretending to sleep, but clearly not. Shamans command a different kind of respect. Not loud, not forced, just there. She begins to hum a slow rise and fall, like wind caught in a bottle. Her voice is rough, layered, and full of things you'd rather not think about too deeply. It's not music, not even song. It's something in between, something older. A gust of wind lifts the smoke and blows it toward camp. It wafts over your face, bitter and herbal, stinging your nostrils slightly. You inhale by reflex and feel it burn its way into your chest. You exhale with a shudder. For a moment, the stars spin just a little too quickly. "Don't sneeze," someone whispers behind you. You don't. Not because of manners, because you're genuinely worried the smoke might sneak into your lungs and rearrange your dreams. The shaman's chant continues, rising in intensity now, like she's climbing something invisible. Her arms sway, her head tilts back, and the fire before her flares bright blue for a moment, just long enough to make you wonder if it really happened. A small, sharp cry cuts through the dark, not from her, but from a strip of hide she tosses into the fire. It curls and cracks, sending up sparks. She watches them like a gambler reading dice. You've seen her do this before. It's not just a performance. She's reading something omens fates, maybe tomorrow's weather. Once she threw a sheep's knuckle into the fire and claimed it meant a man's death within the week. He laughed, then slipped on his own stirrup 3 days later and broke his neck. No one laughs anymore. You shift uncomfortably. The air around the shaman is heavy now, dense with meaning. Some of it ancient, some of it just odd. She stops suddenly. Silence. The wind returns, brushing the grass, flat like a mother smoothing her child's hair. Then she says something. Just one word. Too quiet to hear. But a few men murmur. One makes the sign against bad luck thumb to forehead, then chest, then to the earth. The ceremony is over. She stands slowly, the smoke still curling from her fingers. No bow, no speech. She walks back into the darkness like it's a familiar room. You lose sight of her after 3 steps, as if the night just swallowed her. You blink. The fire pops again. A voice murmurs, "Good." She didn't look worried. Doesn't mean we're safe. Someone else replies. Still, you feel oddly lighter, like something heavy just passed overhead and chose not to land. A new gust of wind stirs the embers. The smoke thins. Around you, the night resumes its rhythm's soft breathing. Shifting cloaks, the occasional horse snort. You close your eyes and whisper a silent thank you to the shaman, for protection, or clarity, or just for keeping the weird stuff busy while you try to sleep. You're finally getting comfortable, or as comfortable as you can on lumpy ground, with only your saddle for a pillow, and the occasional horse belch nearby, when you remember something important your reins. With a sigh, you sit up and reach for them. Can't let the horse wander, or worse, disappear. A Mongol without a horse is like a quiver without arrows useless, and in very real danger of becoming a cautionary tale told at campfires. You shuffle over to your steed, who greets you with a soft snort and one sleepy eye. It's lying down now, legs tucked, eyes half-lidded. Still alert, though. Mongol horses sleep, standing, sitting, sometimes sprawled out like a bored dog, but they're never fully off. You loop the reins through a tether line and knot it carefully around your ankle. Yes, your ankle. That's standard. Not glamorous, but practical. If someone or something tries to take your horse in the night, it's taking you with it. The logic being you'd rather wake up being dragged across frozen grass than not wake up at all. It's happened. More than once. You adjust the loop just enough to jolt you awake if needed, but not enough to cut off circulation to your toes. Theft wasn't just a nuisance on the steppe, it was survival roulette. Steal a man's horse, and you weren't just ruining his week. You were endangering his life. That's why horse theft was one of the few crimes Mongols took seriously enough to execute someone over. No trial, no appeal, just justice swift, and usually on horseback. You lay back down, but your mind keeps moving. You scan the camp layout, rehearsing it in your head, like a mental map. Mongols didn't just plop down anywhere. There's a rhythm to it, an unwritten order that shifts with rank wind direction and terrain. The commander's tent, if there is one, is always near the center, close to the fire, flanked by trusted men. The outer edges. That's where the junior warriors sleep, where horses are staked, and where trouble usually starts. You glance to your right and spot a circle of saddles arranged like a low wall, makeshift barricades in case of a night raid. You nod approvingly. That's clever. Not secure, but better than nothing. Mongols weren't builders of forts, but they knew how to use what they had. A few strategically placed saddles, a line of tethered horses, and a sharp eye. That's your defense system. You reach for your knife and tuck it under your blanket handle exposed. Not because you expect a fight, but because expectation isn't the point. Readiness is. Genghis himself was known for testing his own guards by sneaking into their camp at night and seeing who noticed. Those who didn't, well, they didn't get another shift. Historians still debate whether such stories are literal or legendary, but out here it doesn't matter. The moral is real. Sleep lightly, trust your tether, and never assume you're alone. A few tents dot the camp, simple felt shells for senior officers or wounded men. You're not important enough to warrant one, which is fine. You like the stars. You like knowing there's no roof to trap your thoughts. Still, you can't ignore the anxiety that creeps in around the edges. You remember the story of Batu, one of Genghis Khan's grandsons, whose camp was infiltrated by thieves who cut tether lines in the dark. The guards only noticed when half the horses were gone, and the other half were whinnying in panic. That story ends with several heads on pikes and an impromptu morning execution. Mongol campfires tell great horror stories. Most of them are true. The wind picks up again, fluttering loose blankets, rippling cloaks like sails. Somewhere to the south, you hear hoofbeats light distant, rhythmic. Could be patrol. Could be something else. You sit up slightly, head cocked. A few other warriors stir but don't rise. The horses remain calm. False alarm. You exhale. Even among friends, a Mongol camp never fully sleeps. There's always one eye open, one ear, listening, one hand close to the blade. The peace of this lifestyle comes not from silence, but from controlled readiness. You're not here to relax. You're here to endure. The night wraps itself around you again, and you settle down into your cloak, pressing your back against your gear. You wriggle a little, trying to avoid a stone poking into your hip. You fail. That stone's your bedmate now. Your horse exhales beside you, warm breath, forming a cloud in the chill air. You murmur a soft thanks to it. Whether it understands doesn't matter. The ritual does. You close your eyes again. Try to let go. Try not to dream about ropes tightening around your foot, dragging you screaming across the moonlit grass. Just in case you check the knot one last time. Still tight. Still holding. Still safe. You're dozing now, halfway into sleep, that sweet, warm syrup of exhaustion pooling behind your eyes, when the scent of something fatty and familiar snags you like a fish on a hook. Your eyes snap open. Your stomach answers, before your brain does groaning out a hollow, pitiful growl. Someone somewhere is eating goat belly fat. You crane your neck and spot the culprit, a veteran warrior, hunched over a small pot, suspended on a tripod, its contents shimmering with grease. He dips a carved wooden spoon into the bubbling broth and lifts out a glistening slab of white fat, melting slightly at the edges. His face is pure contentment. You feel betrayed. Where did he get that Mongol meals at night are rarely elaborate? You eat what you have, and what you have is often some variation of boiled meat. Mutton mostly. If you're lucky, goat. If you're really lucky, wild game or horse meat, though you'd have to be starving to butcher your own mount. That's sacred stuff done only when there's no other choice, or when you're honoring a noble death. Tonight's communal pot is a little thicker than usual. Someone added flour or old milk, or dare we dream a spoonful of curd. The broth smells like endurance and distant spice, carried perhaps from the Silk Road in someone's sleeve, Or maybe that's just burnt garlic. You inch closer, hoping for a share, pretending to inspect your boots. Another warrior spots you and jerks his head. "Hungry," he mutters. You nod solemnly like you're participating in a religious rite, because in a way, you are. Mongol feasting wasn't constant, but when it happened, it mattered. Food isn't just sustenance, it's status, camaraderie, even omen. The best cuts go to the eldest, the boldest, or the best storyteller. Tonight you're none of those, but you're awake and upright, and sometimes that's enough. You're handed a shallow bowl, and a ladle full of broth is sloshed into it. A thin slice of meat floats lazily to the top. It's not much, but it's hot, and it's yours. You sip. Salt. Grease. Smoke. Heaven. You fish out the meat and chew slowly, reverently. It resists at first. Goat is not a tender beast, but then gives way, dissolving into a rich flavor that seems to seep into your very bones. You sigh your breath, misting with satisfaction. Someone offers bortsog, a kind of fried dough hard as wood, but excellent when soaked in fat. You dunk it in your bowl until it softens, then bite down. It squeaks faintly between your teeth. Mongol cuisine wasn't designed for delicacy. It was made for warriors. High-calorie, efficient, unapologetic. Across the fire, the fat chunk is gone. You mourn it, like a friend you never met. Still chewing, you glance around. Most of the camp has eaten already, or gone to sleep hungry. Rations vary by rank, by recent raids, by luck. You're in a good spot tonight. Last week you chewed on dried sinew for dinner and called it chewy jerky. Tonight, you have broth meat and dough. You feel like royalty. Well, minor royalty. A baron of boiled things. Historians still argue whether Mongol warriors had structured mealtimes or simply ate in bursts between battles and rides. Some say they feasted often. Others say they subsisted mainly on dried curds and meat strips. Truth is, it was both. Adaptability was the secret ingredient. You ate when you could, stored when you had to, and fasted when there was no choice. You lean back, stomach warm and pleasantly heavy now, and lick your fingers clean. No napkins, no fuss. Just lick and wipe on your cloak. Hygiene is relative. Someone breaks out a flask. It's passed hand to hand, each warrior taking a sip of clear, biting, archy distilled milk liquor. You take a small mouthful and feel it sizzle down your throat like angry honey. Your ears warm immediately. Your nose runs a little. You sigh in contentment. The conversation turns philosophical. Who'd win in a fight? A tiger or 10 marmots? That kind of thing. The answers are slow, thoughtful, and ridiculous. You say the marmots. Everyone nods, mostly out of fatigue. One man begins reciting a poem, something about a man who cooked a yak too quickly and angered a sky spirit. The details are fuzzy. The morale is unclear. But the rhythm is nice. It fits the night. You finish the last of your broth, wipe the bowl with the edge of your sleeve, and set it gently on the ground. Around you, other bowls clink softly against saddlebags and stones. The communal pot is lowered from its tripod and set aside to cool. The fire is fed one last dung brick. The night exhales. You glance up at the stars again, that endless scatter of light across ink. You try to remember how many nights you've done this. 50, 100 more. Each one has its own flavor, but they blur together like grains in the same sandstorm. Tonight tasted like goat fat, old jokes, and faint warmth. And you think not for the first time that you wouldn't trade it for anything. You're full. Not unbuckle your belt full because Mongol deals don't have buckles, but the kind of full that settles in your bones and makes the cold less sharp. The fire crackles behind you, and the world around it dims into muffled sounds and shadowy movement. It's time. Time for the long, careful slide into the least glamorous part of being a Mongol horseman bedtime. You shuffle over to your pile of gear and start sorting the essentials. Not valuables, those stay on your person, but the tools of sleep. First up is your deal the thick woolen robe that you've worn since sunrise. It's your jacket, your armor, underlay your blanket, and now your sleeping bag. You strip off the outer layers, saddle stiff cloak, damp wool wrap, and slip into the deal like it's a second skin. It smells like horse smoke and sweat. You sigh deeply. It's oddly comforting. Next is the saddle blanket. You shake it out. A few horsehairs drift into the air, glowing briefly in the firelight before vanishing. You fold it in half and place it over your legs, then curl into it like a meat bun. Not warm exactly, but warmer. Mongol sleepwear isn't designed for comfort. It's built to prevent frostbite and to allow you to wake and fight within 30 seconds. Your boots. You debate this. Removing them risks frostbitten toes, but wearing them risks waking up to find them frozen to your feet. In the end, you compromise, loosen the laces, but leave them on. A warrior once took his boots off during a blizzard and had to ride barefoot for 3 days. His nickname afterward was Numb Toes. No one wants that legacy. You use your saddle as a pillow. It's awkward, bumpy, and slightly damp, but it beats the alternative rocks, frozen dirt, or the elbow of the snoring guy beside you. You shift and squirm until it rests just right under your neck. Nearby, someone's already snoring a deep, guttural rumble, like an old bear caught in a dream about stew. You roll your eyes. Mongols weren't known for sleeping quietly. Between the bodily noises, the creaking leather, and the occasional night fart, you've learned to tune most of it out. You pull your deal tighter and tuck your hands into your sleeves. The air's grown colder, sharp. Every breath comes out in a silver cloud. Your horse, still tethered beside you, snorts and shifts. You smile. Its warmth radiates just close enough to make a difference. Then the final step in the ritual. You reach under your cloak and grasp your knife bone handled curved slightly, the kind that lives just above your hip at all times. You slide it free and press it under your blanket right beside your stomach. Not because you expect a fight, but because you don't want to have to look for it if one finds you. Mongol bedtime gear is minimal, but strategic. Everything has a purpose. The deal warmth, concealment, quick rise and go. The boot's mobility even when half asleep. The saddlehead support and a symbol of readiness. The blade reassurance. And sometimes warriors wrap a scarf or sash around their heads, not for fashion, but to muffle sound and trap heat. You don't have one tonight, but your hood does the job well enough. You pull it over your ears and sink deeper into the blanket. Historians still argue whether Mongol camps truly slept at night or merely dozed in rotations. Some believe the army operated on shifting watches. Others insist they simply trusted their horses to alert them. The truth: a bit of both. Mongols mastered the art of sleeping like cats, lightly, frequently, and always, with one ear open. You close your eyes. Immediately the landscape expands. Sounds become louder. Every crunch of hoof or creak of gear feels amplified. Your heartbeat seems enormous, but you don't panic. This is normal. The body is adjusting, shifting into step sleep mode, somewhere between awareness and dream. You hear someone whispering a prayer. It's in an old dialect, words you half recognize. A blessing for safety, for strength, for dreams without omens. You murmur a line yourself just in case the ancestors are listening. Above you, stars crowd the sky. Not scattered, but arranged like pebbles in a mosaic you don't yet understand. The Milky Way slices through it a bold stripe of shimmering dust. Some say it's the path to the afterlife. Others claim it's the reflection of the great horse riding across the heavens. You like that image, the celestial steed galloping over your camp, its hooves pounding out silence, its mane trailing sparks. The wind eases, your body sinks, and then snap, not loud, but clear. A branch. Ye hoof. Your eyes open. You reach slowly under your cloak. Find the knife. Wait. The horses aren't startled. Your own is breathing slow and steady. A dream creak, probably. A shifting saddle. Your hand eases from the blade. You exhale. Sleep will come, but only when it's earned. You adjust your saddle pillow one last time. Pull the blanket to your chin. And finally, let go. The night deepens and you drift between waking and dreaming eyes half closed, but still tracing the sky above. The stars spread out like cold diamonds against black velvet, and your mind wanders among them. You try to pick out the familiar shapes, the ones your elders pointed to time and again. The Milky Way, that glowing river of light, stretches across the sky, like a path leading somewhere beyond. Some say it's the celestial horse track, a route the spirits take when moving between worlds. Others insist it's a wolf's tail streaking through the cosmos. Historians still argue whether Mongol star lore borrowed from neighboring cultures or was entirely homegrown, but it doesn't matter now. You're too sleepy to care, and the sky feels infinite calm and somehow protective. You watch as Orion rises, a familiar constellation, but with a different name. Here sometimes called the Archer, sometimes the Warrior. It reminds you of the stories passed down, about the battles that forged your people, of horses galloping not just across the steppe, but across the heavens. The cold air brushes your face, and you pull your deal tighter, feeling the soft wool against your skin. Around you, the camp settles further. Breaths grow slower, fires smolder lower, and even the horses seem to pause their restless movements. You think about the gods of your ancestors, the Tengri sky god, watching silently above the earth, Mother holding all life in her embrace, and the spirits of the ancestors who guide and protect. These beliefs weave through your nights like threads in a tapestry, unseen but strong. A sudden noise draws your attention, a soft whistle, a faint breath of wind that sounds almost like a song. You blink and realize it's a lone rider, far off on the horizon, silhouetted against the faint light of dawn. The image is fleeting, but it reminds you that the steppe never truly sleeps. There is always movement, always life. Some elders say the stars themselves are the spirits of fallen warriors, riding eternally across the sky to watch over their kin. Others believe the night sky holds secret messages patterns only the wise can read. Whether myth or truth, these stories shape how you see the darkness no longer empty, but alive. You shift slightly, muscles aching but comforted by the sense of connection. Sleep pulls you gently, now weaving dreams of horses galloping through endless grass, of ancient battles and distant fires. Before your eyes close completely, you catch one last glimpse of the Milky Way, a glowing river of light, endless and serene. You breathe out slowly, letting the quiet wash over you. The soft hum of a distant melody drifts through the camp as you nestle deeper into your blankets. It's a song unlike any you've heard during the day, a lullaby carried on the wind, woven from the voices of ancestors long gone. The gentle strumming of the horsehead fiddle blends with quiet chants, creating a tapestry of sound that soothes your weary mind. The singer's voice is low and steady, rising and falling like the rhythm of galloping hooves across the endless steppe. Each note tells a story of bravery, loss, hope, and the unbreakable bond between rider and horse. It's a song passed down through generations, a reminder that even in the darkest nights, the past lives on. You close your eyes, letting the melody carry you away. The stories unfold in your mind, tales of warriors who rode through storms of horses that never faltered, and of battles won not just with steel, but with heart. The music feels like a bridge connecting you to those who came before, and those yet to ride. Historians still debate whether these songs were purely oral traditions, or if they were accompanied by written symbols now lost to time. What's certain is that they held power to inspire courage, to heal wounds, and to lull even the fiercest warrior into peaceful sleep. The fire's glow softens, flickering shadows dance over the faces of your comrades as they listen entranced. Some hum along others, simply breathe in time with the music. Even the horses seem calmed by the soothing sounds, their steady breaths syncing with the song's gentle pulse. As the melody fades, you feel a deep sense of belonging. The loneliness of the vast steppe is tempered by the warmth of shared stories and song. You realize that this nightly ritual isn't just about rest, it's about weaving the fabric of your people's soul. The last notes linger in the air, a whispered promise that no matter where the winds carry you, you are never truly alone. You drift into sleep with the song echoing softly in your heart. The night is quiet now, but not empty. Beneath the stillness, something moves, something ancient and wild. You lie still, senses sharpened by the steppe's loneliness. Then faintly, you hear it a howl, not close but carried on the wind, clear and haunting. Wolves. Their cries ripple across the plains, like ghostly music stirring the edges of your dreams. You hold your breath listening, as the pack answers back, a chorus of wild voices calling through the darkness. Wolves have always shared the steppe with Mongols sometimes, as companions, sometimes as symbols, sometimes as threats. They embody the untamed spirit of the land, fierce, loyal, and cunning. Stories say wolves once taught humans to ride horses, guiding lost riders home. Others warn that wolf spirits wander the night, hungry for souls. You glance at your horse, who shifts uneasily, but doesn't panic. The tether holds firm. The wind carries more than just howls tonight. It brings whispers. Spirits, some say, moving just beyond sight. You try to convince yourself it's only the wind rustling grass, or a distant animal's breath. Historians still argue whether Mongols believed wolves to be protectors or predators, or if the answer was both. The ambiguity is part of the magic, part of the fear. You pull your blanket tighter, heart steady, but aware. There's a raw beauty in this wilderness, wild and unforgiving, yet alive, with unseen watchers. The howls fade into the distance, replaced by silence so deep it hums. You close your eyes, comforted by the night's untamed song, and let yourself drift. Your rest is broken by the faint crunch of footsteps, light, deliberate, and near enough to make your heart speed. You snap awake, hand darting to your knife beneath the blankets. Darkness cloaks the camp, but movement is impossible to miss. It's your turn for the midnight watch. The Mongol army never sleeps all at once. Some warriors are always alert, guarding the perimeter eyes, scanning shadows ready to raise the alarm. Tonight, it's your shift. You rise quietly, careful not to wake your horse or the snoring warrior beside you. The cold hits like a wall, sharp and biting. You pull your deal tighter and step away from the fire, the embers glowing faintly behind you. The camp layout unfolds in your mind, the ring of horses tethered like sentinels, the clusters of gear and blankets, the dark outlines of yurts and tents. Every sound, every shape is a puzzle piece in the night. You patrol the edges, senses heightened. The grass crunches beneath your boots. The wind whispers secrets you can't quite catch. Every shadow could be a friend or a threat. Your horse snorts softly, nearby ears twitching. You check its tether knot secure. Losing a horse on watch duty is a death sentence. You swallow down a dry cough and move on. Historians still debate how Mongol watch rotations were organized, whether by clan rank or simple necessity. What matters is the discipline, the knowledge that any moment the night might erupt in chaos. You pause, gaze sweeping the horizon. The stars hang low, cold fireflies against the black. The silence stretches and tightens a living thing. Then a rustle. Leaves an animal. Something else. Your hand tightens on your blade. As you step forward, muscles coiled. Nothing emerges. Just the wind sighing through the grass. You exhale slow and steady. Night watch is often boredom mixed with bursts of adrenaline. You welcome it. It keeps you alive. As the hours creep by, you feel the cold settle deeper your breath, frosting in the air. Your eyes grow heavy, but you force yourself alert-focused. The first hint of dawn paints the sky pale blue. Your shift ends. You return to camp stiff but victorious. Another night survived. Another day to ride. Your eyelids droop as the first light of dawn seeps over the horizon, painting the steppe in soft shades of steel and silver. The night's chill lingers, but the promise of a new day stirs something deep inside you, a restless energy that pulls at your muscles and nerves. The camp begins to stir slowly. Horses shift, stamping hooves against frozen ground. Warriors stretch groan and pull on layers of clothing stiffened by frost. You sit up, brushing sleep from your eyes, and feel the familiar ache of another night survived. You stand and move toward your horse, still tethered, and waiting its breath forming little clouds in the crisp morning air. The bond between rider and mount is silent, but strong, a shared understanding that together you face whatever the day brings. As you saddle up, the sky shifts from gray to pale blue, the sun a faint glow behind distant hills. The landscape seems to hold its breath, waiting for your next move. You mount feeling the familiar weight of saddle and gear settle around you. The horse snorts, eager to begin muscles coiling beneath its thick coat. The steppe stretches endlessly before you, a vast sea of grass and sky, where history and legend ride side by side. Each day is a test, each night, a ritual, each moment a thread in the tapestry of a world, both brutal and beautiful. You spur your horse forward, hooves pounding the earth in a steady rhythm, the wind catching your cloak like a flag. The journey continues. You survived another night. The empire waits. Now, as the stars fade and the sky brightens, let yourself sink slowly into calm. Imagine the soft sway of your horse beneath you, the gentle rustle of grass brushing past. Feel the cold air soften, replaced by the warming touch of dawn. The echoes of fire crackling and the distant song of the steppe lull you gently whispering of safety and rest. No matter the challenges, no matter the cold or the distance. Remember this: you are part of something ancient and enduring. The night's rituals have wrapped you in their quiet strength. And now, as you drift fully into sleep, let that strength carry you through until the sun calls you back. Good night, traveler. Sweet dreams.